Hi friends, I know it's been a while. I have not posted hardly anything. Well, I haven't posted any videos in 3 weeks, but I have been kind of in a slumpy mood from everything bookish. Like, books have been kind of hard to read, making videos has been hard to read, watching videos has been hard. I've just kind of like pushed book stuff away and been just in the summer mood. There's a lot of things going on. I have something special coming up soon next month, so I'm just trying to get ready for that as well, and there's just a lot going on. But I'm back, I'm here. I know this is you're probably like, why the heck are you releasing new releases, like new releases that you're excited about in summer and July, and we're basically at the end of July. But I only have 4 that are in July, and the rest of them are in August and September, so the video is better late than never, I hope. So we're going to go through today all the books that I'm excited for that are coming out in the months of July, August, and September for this 3rd quarter of the year, and I'm so excited. There are so many good books coming out in August and September. I'm kind of glad September is my birthday month, because hopefully I'll have a little bit of extra money to spend on books and things like that. So we also know fall is going to be coming up. I'm going to be going crazy for fall books and just getting in that fall mood. The fall content is starting early, just in case you didn't know. That is something that I wanted to preface saying in this video. I will be posting fall content probably in August. Right after the 2nd week of August is when I'm going to be posting videos. I will be kind of on a hiatus for the 1st and 2nd week of August, just because, again, I have something very special planned. But don't worry, there will be an exciting special video coming with that special plan, and I will make sure to put it out here early. Everything, like, I'm gonna try my best to get it out in a timely manner and make sure I give you guys a good look at what's going on. But let's go ahead and get into the video and what we are here for today. So I'm going to tell you guys the books that are coming out in July that I'm excited for, but none of the books that I have that are coming out have dates with them or anything like that. So hopefully that's not anything bad. I will put them in the description the day that they come out and their titles, so that you guys are aware of that. But these are in no particular order. They're just how I look them up. So I have 4 books coming out in July that I'm very excited for. The first one is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I have yet to read a Chloe Gong book. I don't even own one. I swore for the longest time I had one of her books, but I do not. To me, Chloe Gong is just an amazing author and an inspiration to me. I think she's in her 20s, and I'm pretty sure she's younger than me. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But I think that she's younger than me, and she has published 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be her 5th book that she's published that's just by her, and I'm like, how? How? She is just amazing. She wrote the These Violent Delights series and the Foul Lady Fortune series, both which I want to read but just have yet to get to. So I did get Immortal Longings, which is the first book in a trilogy by her, and I'm hoping that I read that one. I got it through Book of the Month, so that was a good guarantee that I will read it soon, or hopefully soon. So the vibes that I get from this are like a sci-fi Hunger Games, but not as dystopian. More of the sci-fi feels rather than focusing on the dystopia feels, if that makes sense. So basically there are these games that go on at the Capitol every year, and people jump bodies. That's all it really says. It doesn't really explain the science behind it or what they're going to be doing. I just know that they are competing in jumping bodies. So Kala is an orphan. She took down the king and queen, or the monarchy. She took it down. She basically took out her parents because they were running this kingdom, and she just was not in for the authority figures. She thought that they were, you know, just tyrants, and she took them out. And so she is an orphan, and she is wanting to go in these games in order to take down the rest of the monarchy. And there we meet Anton, and Anton is fighting and competing in the games for himself. The love of his life is in a hospital. She's in a coma, and he's trying his best to keep her alive, and he needs more money and more resources, so he's going in to compete in these games, and apparently he's a really good body jumper. And they end up forming an alliance with each other, and they also end up forming an alliance with this boy named August. And August is the adopted son of the king who was killed, and he wants to right his father's wrongs and the things that he did to basically this government and this world. He wants to fix all of that. So it sounds really good, and I am ready for like a sci-fi novel that gives me also those fantasy vibes, so I feel like this one's going to be a good one. The next one I'm excited for is Cutting Teeth by Chandler Baker. I have never read anything by this author. I have heard people say that this one is similar to her novel The Husbands, but I'm really looking forward to it. It has little kid vampires, from what I understand. It's all about these three mothers who are trying to find their identities and basically trying to figure out who they are past motherhood and trying to reclaim themselves, you know, before they became mothers. And their kids all go to the same preschool, and there's this sort of disease that is going around where these kids start craving blood, and basically the parents walk in and they find these 10 4-year-olds surrounding this teacher who has been bitten, and the blood has been sucked from her and she is dead. So those are your only witnesses, are those 10 4-year-olds who are loving the taste of blood all of a sudden. And from my friend Rachel from Happy Go Lovely Sleeves has already read this book, and she said it's supposed to be like a social commentary horror type book where you are kind of, it's trying to explain how children just drain their mothers and basically bleed them dry. The next book I'm excited for is Business or Pleasure by Rachel Solomon. This is a romance book. I forgot for a minute if she was just fiction or if she was romance, but this is a romance book and it sounds really cool. I like the fact that this is following a ghostwriter named Chandler. She writes for this author, and she ends up going to this author event, and the author that she ghostwrites for does not even recognize her, which is just rude. And I really like that aspect because in The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, we also follow Florence, who is a ghostwriter for an author as well. So after Chandler is not noticed or not recognized by the author that she ghostwrites for, she goes to the bar and she finds this guy, and they end up having a one-night stand. Well, moving on, after that night, she gets an assignment to ghostwrite a memoir for this guy, and his name is Finn. And Finn is a well-known actor. But it also turns out that Finn is the guy that she met at the bar and had the one-night stand with. And basically, she was like, dude, it was not that good. Like, we did not have that much chemistry. It was just a one-night thing. Fling, it wasn't even a good fling. And Finn is kind of, you know, offended, which I would be too, but he's offended, and he was like, there's no way, it was way more than what you're making it out to be, you're trying to downplay it. And she's like, no. So she's teaching him a lesson, and you know, I think there's going to be back and forth bickering and that kind of banter that I like in my romance books, so I'm interested to see if this is something that I like or not. And then my favorite, which has yet to come out, it is actually going to be coming out this week, and it's going to take everything in me not to buy it, because I don't know if I've told you guys, but I am on kind of a book buying ban in July. I'm saving up all my pennies to buy books in August, and I'm struggling, but it's not too bad. I thought I would struggle more. I feel like once this book comes out, though, that's when the struggle bus is going to hit. I haven't bought a book in a long time, but this is going to take some willpower not to go out and buy, and that is House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. So thankfully, telling you guys what House of Roots and Ruin is about won't spoil House of Salt and Sorrow. But basically, I'm not going to use any of the parts that would spoil it for you, but basically we're following another sister that is in House of Salt and Sorrow, because there are 12 sisters to start with, and we're following Verity, who we did not follow in the first book. And Verity is still staying at Highmore Manor, which is where all of the sisters live. Most of them have kind of spread out throughout the rest of the kingdom, but she's still in Highmore Manor. And she gets invited to paint a picture, basically a portrait of this boy named Alexander. And he is the son of a duchess that lives in a castle that I cannot pronounce. It starts with a B. Blowham? It looks like Blowham? I don't know how you say it. But anyway, so her sister Camille is like, I want to do that if I were you, but she's gonna go and do it anyway. She thinks it's a good opportunity that cannot be passed up, and I honestly don't blame her. So when she moves to this castle to live there while she's painting this portrait and being hired to do so, she starts having these bad nightmares, seeing ghosts, but she's also really taking Alexander to a higher standard. Like, she is kind of falling for him, and there's a little bit of romance there. But again, everything at this castle is not as it seems. Basically like Highmore Manor was in House of Salt and Sorrows. So I'm excited about it. It's my absolute most anticipated read of the year, and I cannot wait to get it. I can't wait to buy it. Okay, so those are all the books that I'm excited for and ready to come out in July, and now we're going to go straight into August. Again, these books are in no particular order, but I will put them in an order of the day they come out in the description below. The first book that I'm excited for in August is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I have yet to read a Lisa Jewell book, but I really feel like I'm going to like this one. This one is a psychological thriller. I know that she has done domestic and psychological thrillers before, but I am very interested in reading more of her books. I had a book from her, I Found You, checked out from the library, but I had to return it because somebody was waiting for it and I didn't have enough time to finish it. So anyway, I do plan on hopefully reading a book of hers before this one comes out, or before I pick this one up. So maybe I'll pick up The Family Upstairs or something along those lines, because I know that she's a well-known author. And this one is following a woman who has a very successful podcast. She ends up, I think she's turning 45, and she ends up bumping into this other girl who is also turning 45, and they just keep bumping into each other really weirdly. It's not like coincidental anymore, and she finds out that this girl actually watches or listens to her podcast and is like a fan of her podcast. And it just feels weird because this girl is just all of a sudden pushing herself into the life of this girl who's just simply living her life and running a podcast and doing all this, you know, regular everyday thing. The next book I'm excited for is Good Bad Girl, and this book is by Alice Feeney. I have read a book by Alice Feeney, but I read Daisy Darker, and everybody says that is the book that is like that one is the one. And everybody says that one is unlike any of her other books. It's more of a mystery clue kind of vibe, but most of her books are psychological or suspenseful thrillers. And I do own Rock, Paper, Scissors by her, and I also just checked out His and Hers from the library, so I want to make sure that I get to those before I get into her new book, but I definitely will be on the lookout for it. So there's something that happens where a baby is stolen from a stroller, and then years later this woman is murdered in a care home, and apparently the two are linked, and so I don't know how, but they're linked. So we're following our main character Edith, and she is 80 years old, and she lives in a nursing home, and she's planning to escape the nursing home. And there is this woman, Patience, who works there, and her and Edith kind of lie to each other, and you know, Edith is trying to get out. Patience obviously doesn't want a woman just escaping from the nursing home, so Patience is lying to Edith about things, and we find out Edith's daughter won't speak to her, won't come see her, or anything like that. But something happens with Edith's daughter, and this is supposed to combine like a mystery thriller type of feel, so I'm really curious to see where Alice Feeney takes this one. The next one I'm interested in is Looking Glass Sound by Katrina Ward. I read my first Katrina Ward book last year during Summerween, and that was The Last House on Needless Street. Absolutely loved it. I went out and bought Little Eve and Sundial by her, but I have yet to read either of those. I really want to get to both of those, but I'm saving them for closer to like the fall spooky season, because they definitely give off those vibes. But Looking Glass Sound kind of gives me summer horror vibes, so I'm hoping that that's true and I can kind of fit this into my TBR before the summer ends. It's just kind of interesting. I really want to read the synopsis of this one to you guys, because if you have read Katrina Ward before, you will know that her books are kind of hard to explain. She just writes them so uniquely and so differently, and you really do have to think about them. So I'm interested to see if that's what this one is going to be like, but let me just read this to you guys. It says, in a lonely cottage overlooking the windswept Maine coast, Wilder Harlow begins the last book he will ever write. It is the story of his childhood summer companions and the killer that stalked the small New England town, of the body they found and the horror of that discovery echoing down the decades, and of Skye, Wilder's one-time best friend who stole his unfinished memoir and turned it into a lurid best-selling novel, Looking Glass Sound. But as Wilder writes, the lines between memory and fiction blur. He fears he's losing his grip on reality when he finds notes hidden around the cottage written in Skye's signature green ink. Katrina Ward delivers another mind-bending and cleverly crafted tale about one man's struggle to come to terms with the terrors of his past before it's too late. Sounds amazing to me. Sounds great. I'm invested. I'm in. I'm ready. Another author that I have recently discovered that I like is Jessie Q. Sutanto, and she is coming out with a book called I'm Not Done With You Yet, and this book looks like a wild ride. So I actually didn't know that she wrote anything other than cozy mysteries. She wrote Dial for Aunties and Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, and I read Vera Wong. I have yet to read Dial for Aunties, but I really want to soon. But I really did not know anything else about that, but apparently she has written thrillers, she has written young adult books, middle grade books. I recently read a young adult thriller by her called The Obsession, and it was really, really good. And I gave it 4 stars, really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see what this book, which is a thriller, an adult thriller, is coming out, what it's going to be about. So we have one woman who is Jane, and she's just unhappy with her life. She is a writer, but she's a struggling writer. She's struggling just to pay the bills, and she doesn't see the point in paying the bills because she is living a life that she doesn't even want to be living. And all that Jane can think about is the 1 year of her life that she actually enjoyed, and that was when she met her best friend Talia, and they were in creative writing class together. They were going to the same college, but apparently there was this one night where something happened, and instead of making them closer, it kind of drove them apart. And Talia basically fled the scene and disappeared and just hasn't contacted, or, you know, Jane hasn't heard from her since that night. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling Talia and Jane are going to, you know, meet back up, and something's going to go wrong. Something's going to be crazy. But I just know from reading the young adult thriller that I will probably never figure out where Jessie Sutanto is going with the end of her books. So I'm very excited to see what is going to happen in this one. The next book that I'm excited for is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine, and this one looks so cute, and I feel like this will be the perfect romance to kind of transition from summer to fall. So Cassie is our main character in this book, and she's a struggling artist, and she ends up getting evicted from her old apartment or house or something like that, and ends up finding a really good apartment in Chicago. And so she takes, you know, the application and fills it out, and she ends up moving to Chicago. And her roommate is really strange. His name is Frederick. Apparently he talks like very, like, he acts like he lives in Bridgerton or something. He's like Regency kind of feels. He sleeps all the time during the day, and then he's out at night. And Cassie, you know, he does care about Cassie and acts like he cares about her because he asks about her day, how her art's going, and just is very sweet to her. But then she ends up finding blood, like bags of blood in the fridge, and he has to come out and tell her that he's a vampire. And apparently he has a very interesting proposition for her, so I'll be excited to see what it is that he wants from her. The next one that I'm excited for is The Narrow by Kate Alice Marshall. I think it was last year that I read my first Kate Alice Marshall, and that was Rules for Vanishing, and it was so good. With the audiobook, it was such like a scary book for a young adult book, and I absolutely loved it, and so I need to get more from her. I haven't read some of her other ones that she has out, but this one just sounds right up my alley, and I'm hoping that that's true. So there is this school, this academy, private school, and there is a river that runs behind the school, and they call it the Narrow, and apparently there is just like this big rumor going around that anybody who falls in will not survive, and that it is just very dark and a vicious, you know, river. But our main character Eden says that that is not true, because she remembers when this girl named Delphine fell into the river, and she did survive, but now she lives in isolation, and they say that even one drop of unpurified water will kill her. So Eden is struggling to pay her tuition for the school, so she has no other choice but to live as a living companion with Delphine and take care of her. But strange things start happening, and you kind of find out that there is just something not right with this whole situation. And I love the premise of this book because it sounds kind of like The Only One Left by Riley Sager, which I actually read not that long ago, and I really enjoyed it. And so I'm hoping this is that same kind of vibe, but Kate Alice Marshall's way. The next book that I'm excited for is The Infinity Particle. This is by Wendy Zhu, who also wrote the graphic novel Tide Song, which again is a graphic novel that I read not that long ago, and this one is also another graphic novel, and I think it's more YA, so I'm really excited to see if I like it as much as I liked her other book. All I know is that there is like an AI robot in this book, and a girl who is kind of falling for that AI robot, so I know that's kind of a theme going around right now, but I'm excited to see how Wendy Zhu puts it, and to see if that's something that I'm interested in. It's definitely going to be more sciencey, like science fiction, than I normally read, but the cover is just gorgeous and looks right up my alley. The next book is A Multitude of Dreams by Mara Rutherford. I have never read anything by Mara Rutherford, but from what I've heard, if you like Margaret Rogerson and authors like that, you will enjoy her books. And I do think that I own one of her books as well, but I just have yet to read it, so I'm hoping that this one is something that I will read, because this one does look a little darker than what she normally writes. So we're following this princess named Imogen, and there's this big, like, bloody, deadly plague going around this kingdom, but Imogen is the princess, and she has been living in isolation in the castle while this plague has been going on, and she just, you know, she does have her own secrets, but she has not been around and out in the world to know what is going on, I think. So her father is kind of going mad, and you know, she thinks things need to change. And then we also have this boy named Nico, and Nico has survived the plague so far, but it has taken everything and everyone from him, and he met this lord named Lord Crane, who takes him in and kind of helps him to get away and just shield himself from, you know, getting sick and letting this plague ravage him. But the Lord Crane wants to send Nico out to find some more survivors of the plague so that he can bring them back and save them as well. And so as Nico goes, he runs into Princess Imogen, and they kind of are both, you know, they have their own secrets, and they've been lying to people around them, and so they're gonna have to uncover these lies, work together. It's just sounds really good. I love a good plague. The things that I say, when they come out, they don't sound like I think they do in my head, but we're gonna roll with it. In this book, I don't really know how to say the title. I think it's French, so that may be why. I think it's House of Marion by J.L. It is a young adult fantasy book that's coming out. Again, hopefully I said that right. If not, if you guys know what the title is actually supposed to sound like, let me know. But from what this says, if you enjoy reading Leigh Bardugo, Stephanie Garber, and you enjoy the world of Bridgerton, you're gonna like this book. So let me just read the synopsis so I make sure that I do this book justice. So it says, 17-year-old Quell has lived her entire life on the run. She and her mother have fled from city to city in order to hide the deadly magic that flows through Quell's veins, until someone discovers her dark secret. To hide from the assassin hunting her and keeping her mother out of harm's way, Quell reluctantly inducts into a debutante society of magical social elites called the Order that she never knew existed. If she can pass their 3 rites of membership, mastering their proper form of magic, she'll be able to secretly bury her forbidden magic forever. If caught, she will be killed. But becoming the perfect debutante is a lot harder than Quill imagined, especially when there's more than tutoring happening with Jordan, her brooding mentor and assassin in training. When Quill uncovers the deadly lengths the Order will go to defend its wealth and power, she's forced to choose. Embrace the dark magic she's been running from her entire life, or risk losing everything and everyone she's grown to love. Still, she fears the most formidable monster she'll have to face is on the one inside. It says brimming with ball gowns and betrayal, magic and mystery, decadence and darkness. House of Marion is perfect for readers who crave morally gray characters, irresistible romance, dark academia, and a deeply intoxicating and original world. What more could you want? Okay, and now, if you haven't already, buckle up, relax. You might want to grab a drink, grab a snack, and sit back for the 16 books that I'm excited for in September. Yeah, 16. The first one is The Library of Shadows by Rachel Moore. This author is not an author that I've heard of before, and this cover just gives me life, to be honest. So we're going to this school called Radcliffe Prep, and this school is like the 3rd most haunted school ever. And we are following Esty, and Esty is going to attend Radcliffe Prep because she wants to find out more about who her father was. And again, this school has been known to have its fair share of ghosts roaming about, and you definitely don't want to stay in the library after dark. But Esty's not going to try and find her father's ghost. She genuinely just wants to try and figure out who he was as a person. But then she ends up meeting Mateo, who is more than likely a ghost. So Mateo does something and blames Esty for stealing this rare and like valuable book from the library, and so Esty has to set out to prove that it wasn't her and prove her innocence, or she's going to be expelled and thrown out of Radcliffe. So she starts, you know, going through the library, hidden tunnels. There's just a lot at play, and she finds out that the disappearances of these students and the reason that there are students who are ghosts now may not be a coincidence, and if she's not careful, she might end up being one herself. This just sounds like that perfect dark academia setting and kind of like a haunted house, but we're making it a haunted school. And you know I love a good haunted house, so I'm up for this one. So this is probably my absolute 2nd most anticipated read of the year, and it's also coming out on my birthday month, so you bet your butt I'm gonna find a way to get it. And that is The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Mahurin. I read Serpent and Dove and Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. I have yet to read Gods and Monsters because something happened in Blood and Honey that still has me pressed to this day, and I haven't gotten over it. But I think I am going to try and reread the series soon. It's the perfect kind of fall read, and especially like fall going into winter read. So maybe I will do that and then read The Scarlet Veil after. Let me just read you what The Scarlet Veil is about. It's a really short synopsis, and it'll just do the book much more justice than I can. It says, a dark and thrilling vampire romance set in the world of the New York Times best-selling Serpent and Dove series. 6 months have passed since Celie took her sacred vows and joined the ranks of the Chaucers as their first huntswoman. With her fiancé Jean-Luc as captain, she is determined to find her foothold in her new role and help protect Belterra. But whispers from her past still haunt her, and a new evil is rising. One that Celie herself must vanquish, unless she falls prey to the darkness. So if you don't know, Belterra is the world that is in the Serpent and Dove series. So if you have not read these, I think you're going to be perfectly fine if you haven't read Serpent and Dove to read The Scarlet Veil. You just really won't know the meaning behind Chaucers, or who Jean-Luc is, or who Celie is, because they did play major roles in the Serpent and Dove series, and you get to know their background and like relationships they've been in, what kind of person they are, but you will still, I feel like, get that sense out of The Scarlet Veil. But I do highly recommend trying to read Serpent and Dove before you pick this one up. But again, I feel like this is a new series, but it's kind of like Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone series. You don't really have to read them together, but it would be probably beneficial if you did. The next book is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Ava Reed has come out with a few books actually, and you probably have seen them around. She's come out with The Wolf and the Woodsman, Juniper and Thorn, and those are like her popular books. But I have yet to pick up one by her, even though I've been recommended them many times. But this one is the one that is just calling my name. I feel like this is one that I will really be interested in, and I think it's the perfect place for me to start and then read her backlist books maybe later if I enjoy this one. So we're following Effie, who is attending this architecture college, and she has just always believed in fairy tales ever since she was a little girl. She has a copy of this book that is about a girl who falls in love with the fairy king and ends up taking him down, and she has used this book and read this book thoroughly, so her copy is, you know, pretty beat up, but she continues to read it and she really loves it, and it's basically the only thing that's keeping her sane while she's going through college. So then the family of the author of the book that, you know, Effie loves, they start this contest because the author has passed away. So they start this contest for someone to come and completely redo the house of this author, and Effie jumps at the chance to do it. I mean, she's going to architecture school, she loves this author, it's the perfect opportunity for her. And so she's taken up, you know, residence for a small time here while she's redoing this house, but she also finds out she's not the only one who is interested in doing this. So she meets Preston, and Preston is reading through these papers and studying basically all the writing of this famous author, and she is determined to prove that this author is a fraud and not, you know, this really great author who everybody thinks that she is. And so Effie and Preston start working together. They're both rival students, and Effie's trying to prove that, you know, this author is who she says she is, and Preston doesn't want to believe that. But they soon find out that not everything is as it seems. In this house there are dark forces, both magical and real, and it's just gonna get crazy. The next one is a debut novel by author Brianne Randall, and it's called The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic. This one sounds like the perfect cozy fall read, and I just am so ready to have my hands on it and to read it this fall. It says, for fans of practical magic and Gilmore Girls, The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic is a debut novel that explores the shields we build around our hearts to retain our own magic. Sadie Revelaire has always believed that the curse of 4 heartbreaks that accompanies her magic would be worth the price. But when her grandmother is diagnosed with cancer with only weeks to live, and her first heartbreak, Jake McNeely, returns to town after a decade, her carefully structured life begins to unravel. With the news of their grandmother's impending death, Sadie's estranged twin brother Seth returns to town, bringing with him deeply buried family secrets that threaten to tear Sadie's world apart. Their grandmother has been the backbone of the family for generations, and with her death, Sadie isn't sure she'll have the strength to keep the family and her magic together. As feelings for Jake begin to rekindle and her grandmother's growing sicker by the day, Sadie faces the last of her heartbreaks, and she has to decide, is love more important than magic? Readers who love the magic of the particular sadness of lemon cake and the sense of community found in the very secret society of irregular witches will enjoy this warm, witchy novel. And oh my gosh, it's gonna be so good. I also need to get to the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, but this one, they're gonna go hand in hand. So I'm not a big reader of middle grade, but I do enjoy some spooky middle grade once in a while, and usually I am reading that when I have participated in my friend Keisha's readathon, bookathon, and I have helped host this past May, and it was a lot of fun, and we actually did our group read for Lindsay Curry of What Lives in the Woods, and she's coming out with a new book that actually does release on my birthday, and it is called It Found Us. And I loved What Lives in the Woods so much, and that was my first read from her, that I've already pre-ordered this book, and I am so ready for it to get here. So Hazel is 12 years old, and she loves solving mysteries around town, just finding out little things, but there is a series of mysteries where these teenagers are going missing, and she wants to solve this. So one night she hears her brother talking about how him and his friends are going to go to the cemetery and play a game of hide and seek, so she decides to sneak out with them and tag along. So she, you know, is hiding in the bushes and trying to stay out of sight because she wants to see if this cemetery is actually haunted, and her brother and his friends are playing this game. But then she hears that her brother's best friend Everett is missing, and she knows that something is wrong. And let me just read you this part where it talks about these ominous, creepy things that are happening, because it just makes this book sound even better. It says, as Hazel and Den begin to unravel the terrifying clues that started appearing since that night in the graveyard, eerie whispers that sound like someone counting, the intermittent smell of smoke, and the cold, lost presence that follows them everywhere, she's not sure what they're dealing with. That sounds incredibly scary. But Everett needs more than search parties and scent tracking dogs to find him, especially if his disappearance is tied to the history of the cemetery and the lost century-old spirits that might still be trapped there. Lindsay Curry also, she labels her books as heartwarming horror, and I could not agree more. They are just like this cozy horror feel that always have a good ending, and that just makes me love them even more. And the next book that I'm excited for is the graphic novel Lights by Brenna Thumler. This is the third in the Sheets series. There is Sheets, Delicate, and this one, Lights. So I am really excited, and I was fortunate enough from NetGalley to get an advanced copy of Lights, so I'm really excited to get into this one. I really love the first one. I have yet to read Delicates, so I'm going to make sure that I do that before I read this third one, and I'm very excited for it because I know that the main character in the first book is coming back in the third. She wasn't really in the second, so I'm very excited to see what they kind of do with it. I'm not going to go into detail about what this one's about. It's just it's just very cute how there's like this little ghost, and it's kind of spooky but not really spooky because the color palettes are very light and very just cozy. So I'm excited to see what they do with this third one. The next one that I'm very excited to get to is The Witches of Bone Hill by Ava Morgan. I have never read a book by this author, and to be quite honest, this is the only one that's really calling to me, but it looks like it's going to be the perfect read once September, October hits, and I'm ready to get into it. So we're following Cordelia, and she is just kind of not happy with her life. She's dealing with a husband who has criminal debt, and she just cannot stand it. But then her sister calls her from Boulder and lets her know that their great aunt has passed away. They've never met her, but she tells her that she needs to come now because they have to deal with the estate, and it's just gonna be a lot to deal with for an aunt that they never met. But Cordelia sees this as an opportunity to get away from this life that is quickly going downhill. So basically, when they go to settle this estate, the lawyer and the person that is settling this for them tells them that in the will, the great aunt really wants them to stay at this house and not sell it or, you know, get rid of anything. So they basically are told that they need to inhabit this house and do these rituals that their ancestors have always done, but everybody's trying to keep them in the dark about it, so they don't really know what they're doing. And just when you think this book sounds like cozy but also kind of, you know, mysterious, it gets dark real fast. It says, as both women grapple with their current predicament, they come face to face with a haunting family secret, the truth of what happened to their mother and the enemy that's been stalking them from the shadows for generations. In a twisting torrent of terror and blood, the sisters must uncover the power within them. In a twisting torrent of terror and blood, the sisters must uncover the power within them to heal their fractured relationship, reverse their mysteriously declining health, and claim the lineage they wanted to escape but must now embrace if they are to survive at Bone Hill. This next one is from an author that I've never read before, and again, this is the only one that's really calling to me, so I want to give it a try and see if it's worth reading. And that is Hemlock Island by Kelly Armstrong. And this one just sounds really creepy. It says Lainey Kilpatrick has been renting her vacation home to strangers. The invasion of privacy gives her panic attacks, but it's the only way she can keep her beloved Hemlock Island, the only thing she owns after a pandemic-fueled divorce. But broken belongings and campfires that nearly burned down a house have escalated to bloody bones, hex circles, and now terrified renters who fled after finding blood and nail marks all over the guest room closet, as though someone tried to claw their way out and failed. When Lainey shows up to investigate with her teenage niece in tow, she discovers that her ex Kit has also been informed and is there with Jayla, his sister and her former best friend. Then Sadie, another old high school friend, charters over with her brother, who's now a cop. There are tensions and secrets, whispers in the woods, and before long, the discovery of a hand poking up from the earth. Then the body that goes with it, but by that time, someone has taken off with their one and only means off the island, and they're trapped with someone or something that doesn't want them leaving the island alive. I love it. I love it. So I'm hoping that this book is worth the hype that I'm giving it. So fingers crossed. This next one is called Playing the Witch Card by K.J. Delantonia. Wanted to make sure I said that name right. So it's also supposed to be part Gilmore Girls, part Practical Magic. So I guess that's just the vibe that we're going for this fall. And this one says, this is the story of one woman's Halloween homecoming to the town where she swore off magic and where she must reclaim it in order to create the life she desires and protect everyone she loves from an unexpected threat. She gave up on magic, but magic didn't give up on her. 2 exes, 1 misbehaving mother, surprising magic, the perfect recipe for Halloween chaos. So I'm really excited to read this because I really love witchy books. I'm excited because it looks really cozy as well, and I also think that it's going to be like romance but also mystery and just that cozy fall fantasy that I love, and I'm just so excited for more witch books. The next one is another debut novel from the author Carissa Orlando, and it is The September House. I am absolutely in love with this cover. I think it looks gorgeous, and it just makes me wish that this book was coming out right now. So Margaret and Hal bought this house that was on sale, that was basically at a price that they could not pass, and they are just in love with it. It's this cool Victorian mansion, and they just fell in love with it and are so happy that it's now a place that they can call home. So it's very weird though, because they quickly find out that the place is haunted. Every September the walls start bleeding, they start seeing ghosts, and it just, everything goes crazy. But Margaret is not the type of person to just leave. This is her home and she's determined to stay. But after 4 years, Hal just cannot take it anymore and he decides that he needs to leave. So Hal just like disappears off the face of the earth, and Catherine, who is Margaret and Hal's daughter, shows up to the house wondering what the heck is going on and where her father is. So Margaret is trying to help Catherine. They're both trying to help each other find Hal, but believe it or not, shocker, Catherine shows up during September, so the house starts doing its normal creepy things, but this time it's getting more serious because the house has secrets that it does not want these ladies finding out. The next book is Find Him Where You Left Him Dead by Kristen Simmons. It says 4 years ago, 5 kids started a game. Not all of them survived. Now at the end of their senior year of high school, the survivors, Owen, Madeline, Emerson, and Dax, have reunited for one strange and terrible night. They've been summoned by the ghost of Ian, the friend they left for dead. Together they return to the place where their friendship ended with one thought of finding Ian and bringing him home. So they restart the deadly game they never finished, an innocent card matching challenge called Mido. A game without instructions. As soon as they begin, they're dragged out of their reality and into an eerie hellscape of Japanese underworlds, more horrifying than even the darkest folktales that Owen's grandmother told them. There they meet Shinigami, an old wise woman who explains that they have one night to complete 7 challenges or they'll all be stuck in this world forever. Once inseparable, the survivors now can't stand each other, but the challenges demand they work together, think quickly, and make sacrifices. Blood, clothes, secrets, memories, and worse. And once again, not everyone will make it out alive. This is kind of like, to me, it sounds like Jumanji meets I Know What You Did Last Summer, meets Summer's Edge, meets Rules for Vanishing. Just some of my favorite creepy reads, and I just cannot wait to get my hands on it. I love when there's like a group of friends where one has disappeared or died, and then these friends are forced back together to kind of face the same kind of things that they let their friend face. So it'll be interesting to see what this book is. The next book is The Grimmer by Nabin Ruthnam. They have written other books, and they also write books under the name Nathan Ripley, but I have never read anything or seen anything by this author until I saw this book. And the thing that sold me on this is that it says it has Stranger Things vibes with a supernatural horror thriller vibe. So I was like, that sounds perfect for me. And I also am so glad that NetGalley approved me for this book as an ARC, because again, really want to get to it pretty soon, and it looks super cool. So we're following Vish, whose dad has recently come back from attending a hospital rehab facility for addiction, and of course everybody in town just knows all of his business, and there's nothing that he can keep a secret or to himself. So basically somebody mistakes Vish for the weird bookseller, this weird bookseller's relative, and he gets attacked and pulled into this strange world where there are just weird things happening, things that obviously don't really happen in reality, but it's up to Vish and the bookseller and another person who works in the bookstore to kind of come together and figure out a plan so that these things that are trying to invade reality don't actually come into the reality itself. So it sounds really cool. It sounds very intriguing and kind of unique for a young adult thriller novel, and I'm very excited to see if this is something that I could definitely see myself getting into or reading more of. So we are finally at the end of the video. I hope that these have given you some thoughts about what you might be looking for, or given you some recommendations of books that you didn't know were coming out, and I just brought that to light to you. So hopefully that did, you know, this helped a little bit. But definitely let me know in the comments down below if there were any books that you saw that I mentioned that you're excited about, or if you didn't see me mention a book that you're excited about and you want to let me know just in case I missed it. Please leave a comment down below as well. And again, so sorry you guys for being gone for so long. Hopefully I'm back now for good and just getting back into the swing of things. And yeah, I just appreciate you guys so much for all of your continuous support and always being here for my videos when I'm able to put them out. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.